In episode 5, you learn that the Pierces are going to entertain Logan's offer. But before they hand over their baby, they want to look Logan in the face and figure out if he's actually bullshitting them or not. And because of this, they want to meet the whole family. So Logan calls the whole family for a meeting and goes through the do's and don'ts before they head to the Pierces. And the don'ts include things like don't bring up ATN. If you're going to bring up something, bring up movies, gossip, things like that. Right before Kendall leaves the meeting, Logan tells him, show up an hour late and don't lie about where you were. Oh, and also, make sure you stay sober this week. He then pulls Shiv aside, who thought there was a chance that at this family meeting, she was going to be announced as his successor, but that didn't happen. He does, however, tell her that they're going to let them worry about the bottom feeders and reassures her that he will start integrating her more into decision-making. He does say, I know you don't like this deal, and she says, well, I do see the logic in it, and after all, it will be my baby one day soon. And instead of agreeing with her, he just kind of goes, huh? And walks away. Not exactly reassuring. Logan then catches up with Roman and asks how the business training is going. And Roman says, well, it's bullshit, but it's going pretty good. And Logan says, I'm proud of you for doing it, but by the way, this weekend, don't mention it. It sounds like you're in business kindergarten. And that's exactly how Roman feels. The entire family then gets into a helicopter and helicopters over to meet the Pierces. After an awkward greeting upon arrival, Logan pulls over Rhea and asks for an update. She says, well, there is a wild card because a girl named Naomi has shown up and she usually sits this stuff out. And she tends to have the ear of Nan Pierce, who is the matriarch of the family. And she's the one who's calling the shots. And Logan asks her, will we be able to do a deal without Nan? And that answer is a flat no. And Naomi, of course, was the girl who Tabitha knew that Roman tried to use as a contact to broker a deal with. The families then head inside and have awkward conversations where each side is just very, very two-faced. I mean, just completely different ideologies as they tiptoe around each other. Kendall does as he was told. He shows up an hour late, and when he shows up, Logan goes over and hugs him, but whispers into his ear to target a guy named Peter, because they all have their role to play in who to talk to try to convince them to sell to Waystar. Logan then makes a speech to which everybody who actually knows Logan Roy knows that the speech was complete bullshit and not genuine at all. And there were a lot of faces that were rolling their eyes in the room. Logan then gets his family together and rips into Shiv for making jokes about one of the Pierce family members' attempts to get a doctorate. And the member that she was talking to, she pissed off, was already a yes. So Logan's line of thinking is, why were you talking to him in the first place? Now he's pissed off at us. Then he turns attention to Connor because one of the guys that was on the fence about selling was a family member named Max. And Max and Connor have completely opposite political beliefs. But while Max was on the fence, he was leaning towards no sales. So Logan says, cut the shit and get him to our side. He orders the family to simply know their role and stick to it. The family then goes out and has dinner, and the awkward conversation from before carries over to that dinner, including Roman, who's making an ass out of himself talking about these books that he read, but is getting called on the carpet because no one's believing him. And then Connor can't help himself and can't let Mark just simply win these political battles. The conversation then turns to the one area that Logan really didn't want to go to, ATN, and the morality differences between both ATN and PGN. And all the Roys try delicately to dance around the issue, but it's a very uncomfortable situation with Tom in the crosshairs because he's the head of news at ATN. And this awkward conversation crescendos when they ask if PGN is bought, will Tom, the head of ATN, who is the exact opposite of PGN, will be in charge of both news stations. And it gets really quiet, and Logan doesn't answer it, and Tom tries to deflect with humor. The conversation then gets a little more tame, but on one end of the table, you've got Naomi and Roman, and Naomi is talking about their sex life candidly, saying that they don't have sex. And Roman is trying to play it off like she's joking, but she's actually telling the truth, unbeknownst to every one of the guests. But that's not the only relationship that seems to be on the fritz right now, because Marcia is pissed off at Logan and is currently taking it out on him. And she's doing one of those don'ts. She's ordering more wine than she was supposed to. Then does turn the conversation to the fact that he is also trying to be acquired, and he says, oh, that's nothing, we're not even worried about it. And Rhea reveals that it's probably because Sandy is sick. He has syphilis, believe it or not. Nan then asks if he's given any thought to naming his successor, and Kendall cuts in saying, that's pretty forward of you, and she says, well, you're no fun. I mean, we're all friends here. Who's it going to be? And Logan says that while Jerry's currently on the paperwork, even she would be the first to admit that she's not fit for the job. And there is, in fact, a name in mind, but he's not ready to reveal it. And Shiv just blurts out, come on, Dad, I mean, for fuck's sake, tell him it's going to be me. Spilling the beans to the entire table, which includes Roman, who is in management training thinking he could get the job and had no idea and thinks his life is over. And Logan is visibly pissed off at this. And when Marcia asks if it's true, Logan snaps at her saying, would you shut up? But Nan seems to be intrigued by the idea that Siobhan could take over one day. After the dinner, Shiv kind of realizes she messed up and runs up to the room with Tom, and Tom wants to know if that was planned, but it wasn't. And now she's worried about the wrath of her father. And Tom is also worried about his job, because how much loyalty is Logan going to have to him if he's mad at Shiv? And Shiv spilled the beans because she was mad about her dad dragging it on and on and on and wanted to get it out there. For her, she felt like she was getting strung along. And Shiv is really worried about the wrath of her dad because she might have just screwed up this deal. Now, in another bedroom, you've got Tabitha and Roman, and Tabitha is making fun of Roman because of the fact they never have sex, and the reality is that he would rather just be emasculated on the phone by Jerry while he jerks off than have actual sex with Tabitha. But feeling the pressure, he says, okay, we can do it, but can we do things a little bit differently? And he tries to have sex with Tabitha as she pretends to be a dead corpse. And that just doesn't really fly with her, and she gets freaked out and goes and jerks off with her electric toothbrush. Roman decides to go visit Jerry in her room and asks for a drink and wants to know if she had any idea about Shiv taking over. And Jerry says, well, she didn't have confirmation of it. She figured it could be a strong possibility. Roman then asks if she has any suggestions for the rest of his life because he feels like it's over. And she responds with the fact that she's getting good reports from the management training, although he doesn't believe they're legit because he is Logan Roy's son. He then asks for one of those private conversations that they have, and she's disgusted with the fact that that's what he came there for, but then gives in and starts ripping him apart as he goes in the bathroom and rubs one out. And to be quite frank, it seems like Jerry's into it. Now, the two black sheep of the family, Naomi and Kendall, get together, and they've bonded over the fact that they're drug addicts, and they go off drinking and snorting coke. They then head over to the helicopter, and she reveals that she only showed up to screw up their deal, but it seems like they're doing a great job of that on their own. They end up hooking up, but afterwards she explains why she showed up looking to screw up their deal. Because when her mom died, she was going through such a tough time, and it was the Roy family tabloids that were following her all over the place. And she believes it led to her crashing her car, covered in blood, breaking her femur, and she's really never forgiven the publications for that. And Kendall says, well, if you take this deal and you take the money, you can get out of here. And then you're free from all of this. Now, while Kendall had an exciting night, he had, and pardon the pun, a very shitty morning. Because he wakes up to find out that he literally shit the bed, and he has to embarrassingly strip the sheets. When he goes downstairs, he does see Naomi talking to Nan, and at the same time, Rhea is talking to Logan. She's learned that the family had a private meeting, and while she thought she had more time to get in there and skew things over to the Roy side, she simply didn't, and she doesn't know where that family meeting went. But after breakfast, Nan wants to meet with Marsha, Logan, Kendall, Jerry, and Shiv. And all of those people go in to meet with Nan, Naomi, and Rhea, except for Marsha, who Logan claims is taking a walk. Nan starts out the meeting saying while she doesn't really like Logan or his politics, she can't ignore the fact that PGN has had a dip in revenue the past 8 quarters. And after talking to Naomi, Naomi's advice is that she should sell, because that would really be the only way to keep PGN going. She then asks Rhea what she thinks, and Rhea, to Logan's surprise, says, I think we're worth more. And Logan, who is taken off guard, says, I don't really like to be strong-armed, but I could go up to 25. When he does that, it changes Rhea's opinion, and now everybody on the Pierce side is on board to sell. But they have some stipulations. The first being that if they sell, Tom cannot be in charge of news whatsoever. And Logan says that's not a problem. The second is that they keep some board seats, and that's also not a problem. They also want some ironclad editorial protections, and that's also not an issue. But then Nan says, we also want you to name a successor, and that successor is Siobhan Roy. And they want to do it hand in hand with the sale. Because while Shiv is one of them, she's young, a woman, and her political views align more with the Pierces. But that is where Logan has an issue. And without that stipulation, Nan says there's no deal. And Logan would rather walk away from the deal than simply name his daughter, who he told already would be the successor, his successor. Right before he leaves, he says, you know what my favorite Shakespeare quote is? Take the fucking money. The family then gets in the helicopter to fly home, and Shiv wants to talk about what happened, but her dad is just simply glued to his cell phone. He doesn't really care, because he's waiting for PGN to call back and reconsider the offer. And by the time he arrives back in New York City, he gets that call he's been waiting for, and PGN has agreed to sell. They've caved on the final request. Thank you for watching this recap. If you do not see the next one up in the corner right there on the end screen, don't worry, it'll be up shortly. Please consider following the channel. That'd be cool. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't, there's a thumbs down button for a reason.